have during the presentation get answered later in it. So just write them down, maybe write the slide that they were on, and we can come back to this after I'm all the way through this. So we had made 4 project goals for this roads and drainage plan. Our first one was inspecting every mile of roadway and every culvert to give ratings to basically all of the existing infrastructure here in Sun Valley. Using this inspection data, we compiled all of it into 2 kind of master Excel spreadsheets. This was given to everybody in the report, and we'll also have Excel files that we can send to everybody as needed. This can be used by us to help us plan out basically all the projects over the next 10 years and help Sun Valley organize a budget. And the last thing was to update the inventory map that will be used by Sun Valley and mainly the maintenance department. So this is for all the culverts in all of Sun Valley. We mapped all of them and updated a map so that it's kind of easy to find, and you can use that along with the spreadsheet to know kind of what condition every culvert's in and where every single culvert is at here in Sun Valley. So kind of going to go over a little bit of just our typical inspection. This is kind of the worksheets that we made for ourselves that Jason went out and used for inspections. On the left is a culvert inspection form, and on the right is a roadway inspection form. So you can see kind of at the bottom of the culvert one on the left, we kind of had ratings of every single culvert that we went through, and that kind of was what we used to help out to make our project budget and timeline for the next 10 years. I definitely want to point out that definitely when we initially came to this project about a year ago and we started these inspections, we went to a few culverts that we knew where their location was because of the map that Wilson Engineering did in 2014. But when we got out there, we could not find any of the culverts. It turns out they were all buried under about 3 feet of sediment. So we want to thank Sun Valley and Stremler and Tyler for kind of getting out there, and they went and cleaned all of the culverts and all of the ditches, which made our process of inspection so much more streamlined and so much more efficient, because instead of having to dig around to find where these inlets of the culverts were, they were marked already for us and cleaned by Stremler and the Sun Valley Maintenance Department. So that was amazing for us, and it helped us a lot and be more efficient with our inspection. So here's kind of our findings. Here's some pictures of, I guess, different culverts in different conditions. So the top left, you can see that culvert 28 has a critical barrel condition. We definitely found quite a few of these, unfortunately, where basically the bottom was completely gone, completely rusted away, and they need to be replaced pretty quickly. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it kind of just shows you the different spectrum of our rating system that we have here for culverts. And then on the right, I just kind of want to show an example of what a lot of kind of the roadways we found that were in poor condition looked like. We call these an alligator. Kind of looks like the back of an alligator, where there's a lot of cracking going on in the roadway. And delamination is when the asphalt starts to come peeling off of the roadway. So this is kind of a screenshot of our culvert inspection Excel sheet. So this is also in the report, and it has all of the culverts listed in it. And it's just, we want to compile the data just so that it's there. You can search this Excel sheet to find the culvert that you need to see where it's at, to see what condition it's in, and also to when it's slated to be replaced as well. And so all of the raw data will be provided when necessary, but this is kind of just a PDF showing a little more organization of this spreadsheet here. So there's 3 different types of projects really that we are focused on for the next 10 years. And these include small culvert replacements, bridge installations, and asphalt repairs and overlays. So I'll kind of go through each one of these, go through the projects we have planned, and yeah. So first off, we have small culvert replacements. So those culverts you saw in those photos before, we'll consider those small. They're typically 12 inches or so. These are kind of the projects that I think we planned on focusing on the first kind of 2 years, maybe even 3 years. Mainly because we found quite a few that were in poor condition that were causing quite a bit of problems around it. And when you have poor drainage around the roadway, that also affects the roads too. So help fixing these first will help a lot of the different infrastructure in Sun Valley here. So we have these culverts kind of grouped into one project because they're pretty small and the individual cost of replacing one of these culverts is smaller. So grouping them into big groups, as we can see here in 2024, we have planned on replacing 45 culverts, which is almost 3,000 feet of culverts. These are small and simple crossings and do not affect any critical areas. So the permitting is usually a lot easier for these. Currently, these types of projects are covered under what we call the programmatic permit. This was done back a few years ago, and it allows Sun Valley to do maintenance to the roadways and drainage without having to go through long, lengthy permitting processes, which can take a long time per culvert. But in the past now, we've just had to submit a notice of activity, and then we can start construction usually within a few weeks from there. One thing I wanted to note was that the programmatic permit, it's a 5-year permit and it's set to expire in 2025. And we have it planned right now in the master plan to be renewed this year in 2024, because without this, it definitely increased costs per project and makes everyone's lives a lot harder having to do each culvert individually and whatnot. So the next type of project that we're proposing is the large culvert removals and bridge installations. So we found there's 5 culverts that are in Austin and Beaver Creek that are passing pretty large flows because this is a decent sized creek there. These streams and these culverts are technically seen as fish bearing because I believe the Department of Fish and Wildlife has gone out there and seen fish in these creeks. So they've made that determination and there's not really any fighting that. And so because of this, you usually have to replace these culverts with large box culverts. But in this case, large box culverts with all the utilities in the roadway would not be an efficient way to spend that money to get these replacements. So we're proposing that bridges be installed in these locations instead. With these bridges, it will absolutely be able to pass more flows and it will cause a lot less erosion around here, and it should avoid emergency situations, which I know there was one in 2021 when we had that large storm. I believe it was Culvert 4 on Polo Park there. The road kind of fell apart and fell away because all of the excess flows that couldn't make it through the culvert went and took the roadway out. But with a bridge like this, it will absolutely be able to pass those flows and should mitigate for those problems a lot better than what we have currently. Permitting and design are pretty large factors as they are bridges. They need quite a decent amount of engineering and permitting for them, but they absolutely are something that we find significantly a problem right now and should be planned to be replaced here in the next 10 years. So last type of projects is kind of just all the different types of road projects that we also have in the master plan. So there's 3 different kind of types of road projects here: removing and replacing asphalt, grinding and patching asphalt, and then a full asphalt overlay of roads. I know in 2022, we had full overlays of, I believe, Green Hill Road and Cascade Lane. So that's kind of what that type of project is. And then also last year, I believe, or in 2023, there was quite a bit of patchwork that was done to quite a bit of different roads. I know Tyler was kind of working on that. And so that they fall under this a little bit of the same category. A lot of times you will replace the asphalt underneath and patches and then overlay over the top of it. So these are kind of the roads that we have planned over the next 10 years that should be kind of overlaid and repaired. These are the ones that we found were pretty in pretty bad shape and had quite a bit of potholes, a lot of cracking, and a lot of delamination. These typically require just like an LDP permit, which are super hard. They requires a few months of permitting and design work. And due to watershed restrictions, because of the Lake Whatcom watershed here, we try and repair small sections and then overlay the whole thing. Doing it this way makes it so we don't have to do expensive stormwater treatment systems locally, which can lengthen the project and the cost of it as well. So here is a summary of basically the next 10 years of projects that we planned out. So I believe in the report, there's a detailed one of this that shows every project, every culvert and everything, but this is kind of a summary of grouping all the projects together just so you can kind of see the totals at the bottom there of every year of what we expect or what we believe Sun Valley should spend to get these projects done and the infrastructure repaired. We kind of went with the plan of looking at all the projects together at once and kind of using over the next 10 years, basically $10 million total, and then trying to divide all of that into around $1 million a year of projects. And so this is, you can see here, every year we're about that number, some years less, some years a little more. Some years would be more expensive just because of the large construction costs of those bridge installations. But that's why this year in 2024, we're focusing on really getting all of the poor and the critical culverts fixed and some roads repaired before we start getting into the bridge replacement projects. I just want to note too that these numbers down at the bottom, the totals, none of it is adjusted for inflation. It's all based on 2023 dollars. We were assuming that Sun Valley will kind of internally be the ones to adjust for inflation for this budgeting purposes. The last large product from our project was, remapping all of the culverts with GPS and putting it into like a GIS mapping system. This will be used by maintenance over and over again. And so in 2014, Wilson Engineering, I believe, did a roads and drainage plans, and they found initially 254 culverts. And when we did our inspection in last winter, we found 59 culverts. And then recently we found another 40 culverts. So because of the improvements that Stremler and the maintenance department made in the ditches, we were able to uncover almost another 100 culverts that were not originally found in 2014. And so all of those culverts have been added to this map. You'll see that the new culverts are identified as FND or found. So this document right here is kind of a living document. It's dynamic in that it will always be updated, because I think culverts will be continued to be found years and years from now. I think when the original infrastructure was put in, that there was quite a few more culverts than this. And I think as drainage improves, we'll kind of start to see where new culverts will appear in the future. So kind of the key takeaways here that I wanted to touch on were that the roads and drainage plan is planned to be renewed in 5 years, because in the 5-year mark, we'll have quite a few projects done, and we can then review kind of the cost estimates that we had initially done and just see how many projects were done and if we need to reprioritize any of the projects. The first 2 years of the roads and drainage plan is focused on replacing the poor and critical culverts, as those are a pretty big problem right now. Yeah, a big thing was that this budget does not include any of the maintenance of ditches, and we believe that this is a pretty high priority. Just want to touch again that, during the first few inspections, we found that some of the culverts were buried up to 3 feet in debris and dirt and whatnot, and it made it completely ineffective and was causing quite a few drainage problems initially, and those are doing better now, but it definitely still needs to be something that needs to be focused on year after year to make sure that the maintenance of the ditches is continuing. We understand that Sun Valley carries an $80,000 fast response budget, and we definitely recommend that year to year they keep that going because around here there's definitely a lot of emergencies that can happen due to flooding. And we know that there is around $100,000 of culvert ditches and swales maintenance budget, and we definitely recommend that money is be spent every year on maintenance projects just to upkeep with all of the culverts and the ditches around here. Because I mean, with 40 miles of roadway and there's quite a few ditches, it's definitely something that will need maintenance every year and to keep all of the culverts and ditches clean. In case there's any budget constraints or adjustments that need to be given in project priority, we can provide reassessments of this whole plan to give new budget numbers and new estimates, just based on if there's anything with the budget that's not working out with what we've proposed. And with that, that's really all I had here, and I wanted to open up to questions now.
Thank you, guys. Does anybody have any questions? You could raise your hand if you do. Nobody has any questions? Okay, well, I have a couple questions. So I'll start. So the first question I have, when you replace these culverts, so I see mostly like the erosion and the damage like on the ingress and egress of the culvert themselves. Is there a liner or something that you just can reshape the end of that and stick in there, or does that whole thing have to come out and be replaced?
In most of these cases, the whole thing has to be taken out and replaced. Really, the reason that they look like this is because they haven't been replaced since they were initially put in about 50 years ago. And so if we only fix the end of it, then the erosion will continue to happen down the whole thing. And they should be replaced with some sort of plastic that's going to have less of this rusting and erosion happening.
Yeah, and we did look into that option of using a liner to, increase the structural capacity of the culvert. And after evaluation, the kind of sub-consultant that we looked at just said, hey, most of these culverts are in such rough shape that type of approach just doesn't work.
Not going to work anymore. Okay. All right. And then another question I had, if I can go on here, is one thing you mentioned was you said our problematic permit, 5-year permit, was due to expire this year and needed to be renewed. Is that something that you guys do for us, or Tyler does, or Mike does that for us, or who does that?
Yeah, that would probably be our office. We did the first one, and I think we could work with you guys to get that renewed with Whatcom County. I mean, they accepted it, a couple years ago, and they should accept it now. So we're happy to help you work through that process. I don't think it'll be terribly difficult. We're happy to help, and was kind of planning on that this year.
Okay, great. So I need to pass that along. Okay, that
part of the road plan for this year, Keith, is to have impact renew it, and it technically doesn't expire until next year. So we have all this year to get it done.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler.
Yep.
Next year. Okay, guys, any other question from any board members?
I got some.
Oh, there we go. I see some hands now. Okay.
We started off small culverts versus large culverts. I didn't see much discussion with the large culverts except for replacement with bridges. That's a big deal. Really big deal. So is there any large culverts that would still be in use because they were not on Austin Creek, Beaver Creek, or are they all looking to be better off replaced with bridges?
We went out and looked, and it's our opinion that all of them are better off to be replaced with bridges. Going back to the fact that the box culverts that the Fish and Wildlife Department requires are typically basically the same cost and size of project as putting a bridge in, and bridges last much longer and provide much better flows through this area. And all of these culverts we found are in pretty bad condition. Basically, the bottoms are completely rusted away and gone, and they're starting to cause erosion around the sides of it too.
I should
this-
add, Sam, that he's specifically talking about the 5 culverts that they've identified that need replacement. Sudden Valley does have quite a few of the large culverts,
okay,
and those would be a case-by-case basis, which I think is what you were getting at. So it's not necessarily a bridge for every large culvert, but these initial 5 they've identified, they're recommending a bridge for.
yeah, I thought there should have been quite a few more. Now the bridges that you're throwing some prices out there on, is every one of them calculated using steel girders? Or is there any other chances of using some precast or something? It's like I see we got a picture there. I'm just saying that. Would they be site specific? Would there be some changes just because of the terrain, or would they all be the same design?
They'd all be a similar design in like a pre-engineered metal bridge, kind of like the golf course just put in. I think it was the last year or the year before, similar to that, but just on a larger scale. They're right now they're the most cost effective type of bridge that you can put in right now for especially this case.
And are those steel bridges, or all the bridges that we're talking about replacing the culverts with, what are they rated for? Are they big enough to hold the biggest fire trucks going? That's what I'm good, because I know we don't, it's not a trucking route through here, but we still probably do need them to be able to withstand the load that's, the biggest fire trucks you can run. I mean, that's the one thing that I would be concerned about getting through versus FedEx. I'm not, I mean, it's the fire trucks and large trucks, pumper trucks. So are they all standard rating?
They are. Yep, they're all traffic rated. The one that we used for this estimate and for the number you're seeing right there, they're all, I believe it's H20 loading, which is for fire truck and semi truck rated even. So they should all support any fire truck coming through.
Thank you.
Okay, Linda?
Okay, here we go. So when I was looking at your chart of road repairs, it doesn't say which ones, what level they need. Is it all overlay or is it less? I don't see how they're I know price wise, I would say by the price of some of them, I can tell they must be overlay, but it doesn't say which are just patching.
Yeah, all of these are planned for overlay right here. And so that
Okay.
was, yep, that's what I used for the cost estimate. So with the overlay, we'll be doing this grinding and patching underneath the overlay. And then, yeah, we overlay over the top of all those patches because that makes the road last a lot longer than how long they've been lasting lately.
Yeah, I don't think some of the underneath that you're going to grind away and get down to, it'll probably be real good to have that replaced. As a question for you, I know that we have 3 bridges in Sudden Valley. Did you ever look at any of those? There's one on Sudden Valley Drive. There's one on Polo Park. I know that because I was treasurer when that was replaced. But there's another large one on Tumbling Water that's really a really large culvert, but the bottom of it is opened up and set in cement. Did you look at any of those by any chance?
Is Tumbling Water in Gate 5?
Yep.
Yeah, yep, we did take a look at that bridge up there, and we did see what you're talking about, where there's erosion happening underneath the footing of that bridge of the culvert right there. And so that's something that we did not include in this because that's largely going to be a bigger issue than kind of this roads and drainage project, because that's going to be quite a big project there. I believe Tyler was talking about looking into replacing that or looking into some sort of fix for that one. As far as the other bridges, I do not know if they're inspected thoroughly. Jason, can you answer that? Do you take a look at those, or Scott as well?
Yeah, I think Tyler had a separate consultant look at those. Is that correct, Tyler?
Yeah, so there's 4 bridges in Sudden Valley that are technically classified as a bridge, not counting the golf course bridges. There's the one on Polo Park and the one on Strawberry, and then there's 2 at Area Z. Those were inspected a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, by Integrity Structural Engineering, engineer named Ken Wilson. And he is scheduled to come back out this year and do that again, because Sudden Valley is supposed to have all of the bridges inspected on a every 2-year basis to stay compliant with regulations. And so that was not a part of impact design's scope of work, was not looking at the bridges.
I'm glad to hear they looked at it. I know the one on Polo Park is new, and Wilson Engineering did the engineering on that, and then the oversight of the project and the stuff. And I'm pretty
Yep.
sure the one on Sudden Valley Drive and Little Strawberry is a fairly decent bridge, but it's been in for a while. There was a wooden bridge that replaced.
Yep.
But I know the tumbling water one's funny. And we're still looking on that list of projects. You were mentioning Area Z. You were talking, there's a thing for one of the Area Z bridges. Is that the one that empties out onto Honeycomb? That's due for replacement?
Yeah, it's the one that's commonly used by the community as well to access that community garden, and then maintenance uses it on a very regular basis for quick access into the gate 3, 9, and 13 areas.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, was just checking on that, and that's all my questions. Thank you.
Hey, I saw Sam had his hand up.
Yeah, I got another question about the repair of the roads and the overlays over the work that was done underneath. And I noticed that I just watched only a few spots, and one of them happened to be almost in front of my house, which is an interesting spot because if it's a downhill on a fairly steep little run, nothing too serious. But ever since we started having delivery trucks on 24-inch centers, there seems to be at that's like the stop sign right there, and so they drive down there and hit the brakes on every one of those trucks, and it seemed like before the patches it just got chewed right the hell out of there right away. Is there any consideration for some of these various spots where it's a downhill at a stop sign and all these delivery trucks now? It's like, I mean, it's exponentially more traffic than the neighborhood cars now. It's like, of course, we save a little time by having the trucks driving instead of our little cars. But I'm just wondering if in some of those spots, if some extra care has been considered or cost and setting those up a little stronger just because of the unplanned for use of heavy trucks doing all these deliveries day in and day out.
I think I can speak to that a little bit, Sam, for you. In the past, when Sudden Valley was having overlay work done, going back years now, the overlays from what we find pretty much everywhere that we look in Sudden Valley are anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. And that's what's leading to a lot of the delamination as a global picture for Sudden Valley. And a lot of those overlays also didn't have tack put down. And we can see that because the top layer, as soon as it gets one little spot that's ready to fall apart or does fall apart, creating like a miniature pothole that's not a pothole, it'll just scrape off. And so when you've seen that in the past, that's usually what's happening, is the delamination taking place. Over the last couple of years, at least now, when Sudden Valley's been going through and fixing these locations, the new asphalt that's been getting put in has been a 2-inch depth, and there's been proper tack put down so that the 2 layers of asphalt are bonded together. And that is really taking care of what you're describing. But we have not gone through, and impact design has not looked at that either, of how many other spots should we do that at, other than to say that all the delamination that was previously identified pretty much across the entire valley was all corrected last year. Now, there is stuff that obviously that's going to come up each year that hasn't been fixed yet, but that is the approach being done: proper installation of asphalt versus too thin and no tack.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's absolutely something when we get to the project and we're actually applying for the permit for that roadway to be overlaid, we can look at and take into special consideration to make sure those concerns are looked at and planned accordingly for.
All right, thank you guys very much. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay, seeing none, man, guys, I thank you very much for your time and appreciate it tonight, filling us in on everything. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.